Hello, I am Larry the GM. We are back and we are going to cover the second part of the free agents. This is the fun part where we go shopping. But let me remind you, and the folks, please like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, subscribe to the website. I'm going to get all that out because I just did a video and forgot to mention any of that. All right, so let's drive up our YouTube presence. Liking the videos will help also as well. As a reminder, very first thing you want to do on the Larry GM site during this off season is spend time in the off season outline. I will tell you that if you don't want to, you don't even have to scroll down. You can just you can just open up the off season outline, and you're going to get access to everything going on. This is basically describes, hey, this is the outline for you. You want to know what's in Larry GM's in the queue for things I'm going to be writing. These are things I'm going to be writing about. What's in blue font is the new things I've just written about. Remember, this is built around the calendar essentially for this off season. So things that have happened, we've already written about. Things that are happening, we will continue. We'll be updating. But you can see where we are and the things that have happened, things that will happen, and including where we are talking today is, we just talked about these Astros became free agents, and who do we think will be back? And then we talked about these links right there. Now we're going to be talking we actually covered the team assessment internal options. Now we're going to cover the one that's right there, external free agent links. All right, so here we go. Free agents. What do we think? What do we think is going to happen? Let's talk about. I know this is going to blow your mind, but I put together 7 scenarios for what that could happen in this space. Now, some of these scenarios overlap. By the way, I've got my World Series champion shirt on. I'm fired up because my Astros won the World Series. Still fired up. We'll stay fired up all season, all off season. We talked about in that first part 1 that the Astros really should focus upon improving at catcher, first base, and in the outfield, and possibly add a left-handed relief pitcher. Now they've already gone and added or kept Montero, so they're working. And Jim Crane essentially said we were really focused upon keeping our bullpen together. Okay, just so everybody's on the same page, relief pitchers are notorious for variability from year to year performance. So if the Astros front office believes that they're going to get exactly the same results from their bullpen, even if they have all the same pitchers in it that they had last year, that won't happen. It never happens. Relief pitchers go up, relief pitchers go down, and I think you could probably make the argument several relief pitchers in 2022 had career years. So I don't suspect that those pitchers are going to have the same career years in 23. I would love to see the Astros make a significant move with a really good left-handed relief pitcher. We'll talk about that before we're done here. But those are the spots, the 4 spots I'd focus upon. Now, kind of as a cloud that covers over all of that and essentially dictates the market of how much they can spend is whether or not this team brings back Justin Verlander. Now, one of the links, and I realize I need to put that link in here. The payroll and CBT articles, we talked about exactly how much money this team has. So you can go back to the offseason outline, and then that you can see that article there. But bringing back those players would take the CBT payroll from 169 to 222. 3 players meaning Gurriel, Brantley, Verlander. The 2023 CBT is 233. My belief is if the Astros bring back Justin Verlander, they're going to target a 2023 payroll that's between 238 and 248. They will go above the CBT by a little bit. Let's just say we're going to pick one number. We're going to say it's 243. That's the number I use in this rest of this article. If they don't bring back Justin Verlander, I think they're going to try to squeeze in right under that CBT. And the reason for that is there are penalties for successive years above the CBT. So I suspect the Astros are going to really try to maintain being below that target if they can. And if they don't bring back Justin Verlander, if they do, probably I'll bet they know they're not necessarily going to be able to stay under 233. Now, when I've talked about these numbers, people are kind of shocked that they're going to spend this much money, and the reality is it's a pretty big bump under the scenario where they don't bring back Justin Verlander. They've got to, well, I mean, it's what's in green in this article, right? If they bring back Justin Verlander, they have about $34 million to spend. All right, beyond Justin Verlander. If they don't bring back Justin Verlander, I say they have about $62 million to spend. Okay, and these numbers don't include Montero. So Montero is 11.5 of that, either the 34 or the 62. Okay, so you can start shedding off those numbers. But those are the two. Like, if you want to start memorizing numbers, remember 34, remember 62. If you don't really want to, if don't want to know, don't worry about it. Just remember, understand those two numbers. It's 34 plus what I've assumed is 40 for Verlander. So if it's more than that, then you got to subtract the difference from the 34. But that's those are the numbers. Remember, now if you want to dig into the details how I got to those numbers, you can go back to the CBT article and it will describe it for you. Well, so people want to know, like, Larry, who do you think the Astros should go chase as far as free agents? Now, I've got an active table. Maybe I should update this article with the active table. One thing to say, guys, if you see a table in there, it's too small for you, you can always click on the table, then you can click on the double arrows and you can get that version. I don't know if people know that or not, but let me just do that for you guys. So here we are with the big table. These are the players that are on my menu for Astros targets. Okay, obviously Rafael Montero's down here in the bottom, and I know that my head is in front of. Let me see, we can do this real quick. I don't know if that helps or not, because I think it's just a black box now. Oh, I know what I can do. Here we go. Oh, that's not what I wanted to do. Sorry about that, guys. Okay. Well, Larry the GM can't fix that, so we'll just go with it like this. All right, so I'll talk you through the numbers related to the relief pitchers. You can't see them down there. I've got 4 catching targets: Omar Narvaez, Christian Vasquez, Mike Zunino, and Wilson Contreras. Now, this only happens in a world that something happens with Moldy, I think, and I don't think we bring back Vasquez to partner with Maldonado again, because quite frankly, I don't think we got the best out of either one of them with that scenario. I think there's a possibility they might do that with Wilson Contreras, knowing that they're going to start Wilson Contreras 70% of the games, and they're going to use Moldy essentially as like a closing catcher, where he closes down the last 3 innings if they're ahead at that point, 2 innings if they're ahead at that point. So here we go, guys. That's the catchers that are on this free agent table. No, the numbers that are way over. So what I've done is like, number one, you understand if they bat lefty or righty, they throw righty or lefty, they're previous team, their age, whether they've gotten the qualifying offer, what the projected WAR from the projection systems is, and then at least 3 different prediction systems that were in place when I wrote the article. I can come back and if I've got some of those, and I probably should go research to see if there's new numbers. But at the end of the day, you see my numbers, like I project for these guys in the 4th set of columns here. Then what you need to understand is teams are going to really that are cost conscious than the Astros have been to this point before. They're going to preferentially target players. They're going to give them the biggest bang for the buck. So that they want this dollars per WAR number, projected WAR number, to be as small as possible. Do you want to spend $16 million on a WAR, or do you want to spend $4 million on a WAR? Well, the answer is if you're a smart team, you want to spend 4. And because that means you can spend that other money somewhere else to get more. All right, so those are the catchers, and you can see by that catching, Nomar Narvaez. Omar Narvaez is actually, and I've seen this in some other articles too, the most cost-efficient free agent I think that's on the entire market right now. Omar Narvaez. Keep that in mind if they end up going pursuing catcher, or if Moldy retires. Omar Narvaez may be the way to go. Yeah, there's reports that they're going after Wilson Contreras. That poses interesting, but I mean his number is $6 million per WAR. When you see some of the other positions, that's not really a bad efficiency. First base. Let's talk about first base now. Anthony Rizzo, in the active version of this document, is now black. He's gone. He signed for $17 million for the next 2 years, and I don't know what the 3rd year in that contract is, but it's got a $6 million buyout, so it looks like it's an AAV of 20. Really, and I think that's the way it'll be in their calculation, but really it's an AAV of 17. My AAV of 18 is looking like a pretty good projection. I said 3 years at 18 million, and it's probably 3 years at 17 if they pick up the option. The interesting other possibility, you see where Gurriel is on a comparison. He's way more costly on a per WAR basis. That's $13.3 million per WAR, and he's only projected to deliver 0.4 WAR, and this projection system they're using in this table. We're using in this table. That's not good. We'd be better off doing something else. But here's the guy, Anthony Rizzo. He's gone. So I think the 2 most likely targets are Josh Bell and Brandon Drury. Now you're going to say, Larry, where is Abreu on this? And guys, I'll double back the article in a minute, but Abreu's too. I don't want any more 36-year-old players, or I don't want 35-year-old players. I'm signing up as free agents for the next 2 or 3 years. I think that's not a smart use of the Astros' money. I think there's age regression that could happen, and it's just not something we should be pursuing. So, if you look at that table, the players that play first base, Brandon Drury is the most cost efficient. I think the Astros really should make a strong play for Josh Bell, because he's going to deliver more WAR than Brandon Drury. Really is more of a classic first baseman, and so Brandon Drury is a really intriguing option though. From he can play third, he can play first, he can play second, he can play left field. If Josh Bell comes off the board, if the Astros move quickly to get Brandon Drury, don't be too surprised. A lot of this starts and finishes though with Gurriel. Is Gurriel coming back? Is he going to choose to come back? Jim Crane's already talking about like he wants to bring him back. So just understand that if Jim Crane and the Astros organization goes after Gurriel, they're spending free agent dollars, his money, in a much less efficient way. Now it's his money; he can choose to do that, but you're not going to get as good of results doing that as you would going after one of those other 2 options that are still on the board. All right, let's talk about outfield. So outfield, Josh Peterson did indeed take the qualifying offer to what I showed on here he would. Aaron Judge, most people are saying he's going to get 8 years. So maybe I'm wrong about that. He might get eight at around 40. But you see some of the other options. The one I really like is Andrew Benintendi here at roughly 4 years, roughly $15 million a year. So if we get in a world where we could put Josh Bell for 3 years of 15, Andrew Benintendi at 4 years of 15, and that's how we spend that roughly $30 million budget I talked about, I'd be a really happy Larry the GM. Okay. So those are the outfield options, but there's again a lot of talk about Michael Brantley, bringing the boys back, bringing Michael Brantley back. Here he would be 1 year at $10 million. He's the least efficient. Well, so the least efficient would have been Jock Peterson. He's already off the board. So the least efficient option here is Michael Brantley. The most efficient from a WAR delivery standpoint is Brandon Nimmo. And so if the Astros got serious about wanting to go get Brandon Nimmo and they were willing to spend between $18 and $20 million a year on him, that might be a really good option. And Nimmo has some position flexibility to play both center field and left field or right field. So, yeah, it would be interesting to see if they actually chose to go after Brandon Nimmo. All right, left field, left-handed relief pitchers. So I put Montero in this spot just because he's a relief pitcher. Obviously, they've signed him. They signed him for more money than I said he should. I said they were going to sign him for 3 years at $9 million a year. Essentially, they signed him at 3 years at 11 and a half. So that's just why some people like me were saying this is not a really efficient deal. And there wasn't nobody that really expected that Montero was going to get $9 million or was going to get $11 million a year. I bumped it from what MLB trade rumors had said that they thought he was going to get. So, maybe that's what the market was. Maybe he was getting, an $11 million offer from somebody else. But the Astros projected, and I probably should write about, was the Montero deal really good? Clint basically did that, and so there's an article on Larry Jim that Clint wrote, and I think Clint did a great job from a pure monetary standpoint. It's an overpay, and Clint shows you why it's an overpay. So, and here it is. That deal is essentially at a $19.2 million efficiency. Now, guys, relief pitchers are notoriously low WAR just because of the way WAR is calculated. They don't really get the chance to deliver WAR to the same extent. So my two lefties on this list are Andrew Chafin and Taylor Rogers, and I would love to get Taylor Rogers. If Taylor Rogers is willing to come for 10, 11, even $12 million, he's a more efficient option than Andrew Chafin, a more efficient option than Rafa Montero. So maybe that's a possibility. If the Astros don't really go get a lefty of the Chafin / Rogers quality level, I think they're kind of wasting their time and they're wasting Jim Crane's money. So those are my opinions. So those are my targets. Those are my opinions about the targets and who I really would want to go after. So let's talk about like the 7 scenarios, right? So here's this table right here kind of lays out the tables, who's coming back. I don't want to bore everybody. It's probably more fun to talk about in the words that I did down below. But basically, the scenarios are like we're bringing back nobody, get no one. All right, we're just rolling with what we got. We let the kids play. Montero's it. That's the only guy we're getting. So we're at like 180 CBT because it was 169. We had the 11 from Montero. We're at 180, and then we're just leaving at that. All right. Well, that might be a scenario you would get if you had Drayton McClain still as owner of this team. Saying, hey, this is a really good team. We don't need anybody. We're going to run with the kids because we just really think they're going to be great. That's a terrible scenario, and it's not going to happen. Right? So all 7 of these scenarios we rated, the rating of them. How good is this scenario? How good is it from a monetary standpoint? How good is it from a delivery of war? That's a terrible. It's a terrible idea. Delivers essentially no war, and the likelihood of that happening is zero because it's already not happened. Right? Montero's already on the team. Scenario 2. All right, scenario 2. I'm just here to tell you guys, if I were writing this article today instead of the 4 or 5 days ago I wrote it, the likelihood on scenario 2 is probably 8 or 9 right now. This is the scenario I heard Jim Crane speak of. Now, had some discussions with some friends on our private chat on Twitter, and he said I heard Jim Crane say something different. So basically, he's saying he thinks Jim Crane thinks there's another first baseman and Gurriel's the backup. I didn't really hear it that way. I heard, hey, we're gonna bring in just bring Yuli back. We're gonna bring JV back. We're gonna bring Brantley back. We already brought Montero back. We're gonna bring the band back together. All right. The band does not include Mancini, Vasquez, Elizabeth Diaz, and Will Smith. But the band includes Gurriel, Brantley, Verlander, Montero. We'll come back. The reason this is a positive. It's what Jim Crane knows. Okay? Jim Crane is not, despite the posturing from this front office about, the guys that are making decisions having good experience, they haven't been in a GM chair before. So it's familiar to bring these guys back. The negative is it actually destroys value on the bats. This is what I told you in part 1. Like the more plate appearances you have Gurriel have, the more WAR you're destroying. So overall, because we do get a bump from having Montero and Verlander on the pitching side, you're delivering only 1.3 WAR, and you spent $47 million to do this. I just don't think that's it's a terrible use. No, I'm sorry. You spent the efficiency is 46.9. That's terrible, guys. It's terrible. We're all the way up to 230 against the CBT. It's just like, okay. I really hope they don't fully engage and do this plan. But I'm telling you guys, the way they're talking, this is the plan they're following. This is the pathway they're down. Don't be surprised if this is what is at. It's better than nothing, maybe, but it's not a good plan. Okay. The offensive money whip plan. This plan basically says, all right, we're not worried about JV. We're going to go after everybody else that's not a pitcher. We're going to get Contreras at catcher. We're going to get Rizzo at first base. Well, obviously that's not going to happen. We're going to get Nimmo in the outfield. And heck, let's get Rogers at left-handed relief pitcher because we still have the money. So if we substitute in, Bell in for Rizzo, the cost of this comes down a little bit. But so does the WAR. So guys, if you do all this, you get all those guys, and obviously we're not getting Rizzo. But if you could have gotten all those guys at the projections I had, this plan actually works under the CBT. They could add all 4 of those players, Contreras, Rizzo, Nimmo, Rogers, and still be under the CBT. Now, why would they be able to do that? Well, part of the reason is because there's draft pick compensation. They would lose the draft picks for signing Contreras. They would lose the second round. They would lose the third round for Rizzo. They'd lose the fourth round for Nimmo. That's not going to happen. This team is not going to give up 3 draft picks to sign 3 free agents. But, theoretically, in this world, they could do all this. And we'd be at 52.3 WAR versus that baseline that we started at, which was 47.2. That's a pretty hefty rise. That's 5.1 improvement in WAR. It's actually the most cost-efficient thing we can do. It's kind of crazy. Um, so if you don't play JV, there's a lot you can do. But let's just look at other plans, all right? So other plans. Let's just talk about just win, baby. Let's get a little more realistic. At catcher, we're not going to go Guitarres. We're going to keep Maldonado, and we're going to get Diaz and Lee ready to be the backups. We're going to sign Josh Bell. We're going to sign Benintendi. So these two are the best non-qualifying option WAR projection options in the system. We're going to keep Verlander, and we're going to roll with what we got in the bullpen. Well, obviously they did more than that because they got Montero. So we'd actually have to add $11 million to these numbers because that's what we've already done. This plan does almost everything, and it's politically doable. Politically meaning you're not messing with Maldi. You got to convince the fan base that, okay, we're moving on from Gurriel. Maybe you get Gurriel to retire, put him in a front office position, those sorts of things. But this is really not a very efficient plan. Efficient meaning WAR delivery. It's a $26.8 million per WAR plan. You basically add 2.5 WAR with this plan, and you spend a whole bunch of money. And so, in fact, you'd have bigger cap penalties because you have Montero in this. I like this plan because I love making this offense just a murderer's row. But I can see this happening, but it's not the most. It's still not the most likely thing. So, call the next plan the let the outfield play out option. So this says we're going to do everything we can do except the outfield. Okay, the outfield is the one spot we're not really going to address. So we're going to bring Vasquez. Okay, that has some political ramifications. We're going to sign Bell. We're going to let Alvarez play more in left field and have McCormick and Myers cover center field and non-Alvarez days. We'll let McCormick play in left field. We're going to keep Verlander, or we're going to sign Rogers, or now in our case, we would say we're going to sign Montero. This plan does everything the other plans would do, only better. It's a really efficient WAR plan. And the question is, can this franchise really let go of Maldonado, do this? And would we be comfortable with the outfield option of this plan, or would we be screaming like, well, we've taken care of first base, we've taken care of improving the catcher, we've kept JV, and we made it, we kept Montero. Would it's actually work? Guys, I don't know. I actually thought this was my favorite plan. It increases the WAR 3.6. That's a big bump in WAR. Look at this lineup. You got Altuve, Pena, Alvarez, Bregman, Tucker, Vasquez, Bell, McCormick, Myers. Okay. It could be possible, but I think this is even less likely than the previous plan. All right, so this is the plan. I go to Jim Crane. All right, this is the put up or shut up plan. You say you're really going to spend a lot of money, right? And I will say this about that previous plan, is it came right at a little bit above the CBT, but not enough penalties in CBT to worry about too much. Scenario 6, put up or shut up plan. All right. Similar to the previous plan, but we kick it up. If Jim Crane really wants to be aggressive, this is his plan. We bring back Vasquez. We bring back Bell. We sign Bell. We sign Benintendi. We keep Verlander, and we sign a relief pitcher. Now this would be Montero instead of Rogers. This plan does everything. We don't lose a draft pick for any of it. And, what's going to be interesting is you add all these players, how you manage the 40-man. A couple people around the 40-man would have to be jettisoned for this plan to work. But, this plan 51.4 WAR plus 4.2. Very efficient plan. Or 19.8, almost as efficient as the previous plan. Really, statistically, no real difference between those two. But this plan takes you to 252 on the CBT. Now it's Jim Crane's money. Jim Crane can do whatever he wants. If he wants to really do this, this is the put up or shut up plan. This says like we're taking it all. We're gonna get every player, every best player that doesn't have a qualifying offer, we're going after. That's basically what this plan is. I don't, I love this plan, and I'm not really sure Benintendi is worth it over the previous plan. But in this case, look at this lineup: Altuve, Pena, Alvarez, Bregman, Tucker, Bell, Vasquez, McCormick, Benintendi. You got a lefty down there at the bottom of the lineup. Of course, you got the two lefties we have now. You got the switch hitter batting six. This lineup really becomes good. I don't think Jim Crane's going this far. And basically, the more he talks about bringing guys back like Brantley and Gurriel, these plans have no shot because you can't bring those guys back and do these plans. Scenario 7. If you thought like scenario 6 was the wild one, scenario 7 says, hold my beer. I'm signing everybody. I'm getting the best players. Well, this plan will not happen because they're not going to get Rizzo. But like this is saying we're getting Contreras, we're getting Rizzo, we're getting Nimmo, we're getting everybody. Okay, this plan won't happen. It's it raises the WAR 6.5. This team would become instantly the World Series favorites. The payroll would go to 269. That's 36 million above the CBT. Jim Crane would have a $9 million CBT tax penalty with this plan, and he probably would be in CBT hell for the next several years with this plan. The WAR improvement, this is the best WAR improvement plan. Just spend the money, build the WAR. This is the way to go, but there's no way this plan happens. Okay, so and we lose out on the draft picks because we signed Nimmo, what's the draft pick? We signed Contreras, was a draft pick. We signed Rizzo, was a draft pick. This plan won't happen because Rizzo's not available anymore. But you could substitute in a Bell for Rizzo in this plan, and it almost costs as much. You only lose 2 draft picks, but it's just none of those are happening. All right, so here's the way I look at it, and what I guess I would focus you. The reason I wrote like these scenarios was to help you guys understand. Like we can start talking about the players, right? Well, we have to build it in to a model, and so that playing time model that I showed you in part 1, that's the model I use to calculate the WARs for every one of these options here. And so, we got ratings for all these things. My favorite is to let the outfield play out. In other words, we don't address the outfield, but we get Verlander. And I guess in this case, we get Montero instead of Rogers. I would really love to have gotten Rogers. We go ahead and get Vasquez, and we get Bell. That is my favorite plan. I think the most likely plan on here is if we're serious about pursuing and really improving this team, is a just win baby plan, and that's I'll leave it here. Was keeping Maldonado, getting Bell, Benintendi, and Verlander. The problem with that is that won't happen now because we did get a relief pitcher. So you're gonna add $11 million to that plan. So tell me what you think. Members, you guys know you can make comments below. Some of you already have. We will document, I did document the qualifying offer, why it's important, who got it, and in the minor league free agents. We talked about the Rule 5 draft. These are all articles that are out there that we'll still talk about in videos yet today. So there's the. So what's your plan, guys? What do you think? Which of these? Like we'll go back to the grocery list, right? Now maybe you're saying, Larry, I want a Brave. I don't care how old he is. Like that's who I'm going. That's who I want. That's great. I just don't want any more 35 plus year old players. Period. And so I'm targeting the Josh Bells who's 30, Benintendi who's 28, Taylor Rogers who's 32, and Christian Vasquez who's 32, or Wilson Contreras who's 31. I think those are the better way to go. But that's why it's the off season. We get to talk about all this stuff, and we talk about what our team should do. So, guys, that's it. That's part two. Part two is the fun part where we talk shopping list. You guys can throw scenarios at me. Say, hey, Larry, go put this in the playing time calculator. Figure out what the war result of this, how much it costs, and we can play with that. After I'm about to get through like this first wave of things. Then it's just going to be keeping up with the news, like what happened. We'll have some time for that as things go. All right, guys, that's free agent part two. We will talk about some more. Take a little break, and then we'll talk some more about some of the other things on Larry Jam this week. Thanks. Bye bye.